Hi class, what I want to do in this lecture is talking about the multiplication of polynomials. So in the previous lecture we talked about addition and subtraction of polynomials, so now we're just moving into the next mathematical operator. Okay, so our objectives are the following. So we're going to work through 5 things today. First we're going to talk about multiplying a polynomial by a monomial. That's pretty easy. Then we'll talk about multiplying 2 polynomials. Then we'll talk about multiply 2 binomials. In this section, I'll introduce something called FOIL. You might have heard of that process in your previous classes. Then I'm going to quickly talk about multiply binomials that have special products. And then finally, we're going to do an application problem. Okay, so multiply a polynomial by a monomial. So the polynomial is a multiple term expression, and a monomial just has one term. Okay, so to multiply a polynomial by a monomial, use the distributive property and the rule of multiplying exponential expressions for this. Okay, so I want to work through 3 quick examples here. All right, first one, multiply. So I want to take minus 2x, multiply it by x squared minus 4x minus 3. And then over here, I want to do 5x plus 4 times minus 2x. And then finally, I want to do x cubed times 2x squared minus 3x plus 2. Okay, so here, this first one. Minus 2x times x squared minus 4x minus 3. What you're going to do is you're going to use the distributive property to take this minus 2x and literally multiply it to every term. So you're going to take minus 2x times x squared here. That's just going to get you minus 2x cubed. Then don't forget you have this minus here. You're going to take minus 2x and multiply it by minus 4x right here. Remember, a negative times a negative becomes a positive. 2 times 4 gets me 8, and x times x just gets me x squared. Finally, you're going to take minus 2x times minus 3. Negative negative here again becomes a positive, so that's plus. And then 2x times 3 just gets you 6x. All right, for the other ones, you can see kind of the following here. What you're doing is you're just distributing with the minus 2x in the back. You're just distributing it backwards. So you're going to take 5x times minus 2x. That's just going to get us minus 10x squared. Plus 4 times minus 2x. Well, 4 times minus 2 gets me minus 8x. We're going to leave it just like that. Here, you're going to distribute the x cubed, right? So remember, when you multiply here, you add the exponents. So x cubed times 2x squared gets me 2x to the 5th. X cubed times minus 3x, that gets me minus 3x to the 4th. And then x cubed times 2, that gets me 2x cubed right there. All right, let's talk about now when you multiply 2 polynomials, what you do. All right, so multiplication of 2 polynomials require the repeated application of this distributive property that we've been talking about. So a convenient method for multiplying 2 polynomials is to use what we call the vertical format, similar to that used for multiplication of whole numbers. All right, so let's take this one. So I have this 3-term polynomial times this 2-term polynomial, so a trinomial times a binomial. So I have 2b cubed minus b plus 1 times 2b plus 3. So you're going to set it up the vertical way. So you're going to take the first polynomial, put it right here. Underneath it, you're going to put the second polynomial. And then what you're going to do is you're just going to multiply it as you did in your previous math courses that you've learned as with whole numbers. So 3 times 1 gets me 3. 3 times minus b gets me minus 3b. And then 3 times 2b cubed, I'm going to put that as 6b cubed over here. And I'm going to leave a space for the squared terms, okay, because there's no squared terms, so I'm going to leave that space. Now I'm going to go here, 2b times 1. That gets me 2b, so I'm going to put that underneath its like term. 2b times minus b gets me minus 2b. And then 2b times 2b cubed, well, that ends up getting me 4b to the 4th power. Now all you're going to do is you're going to add down. So the 4b to the 4th power comes down, the 6b cubed comes down, the minus 2b squared comes down. We see that minus 3b plus 2b gets me minus b, and then finally this 3 comes down. So we're good there. All right, let's talk about how you multiply 2 binomials here. Okay, this is going to be what's called the FOIL method. Excuse me. So it's often necessary to find the product of 2 binomials. It's going to come up a lot in this class. So the product can be found using a method called FOIL, okay, which is based on the distributive property. So the letters of FOIL tells you how to multiply. So they stand for the following. You multiply the first term, then the outer term, then the inner term, and then finally you multiply the last term. And once you see me an example here, it'll make perfect sense. Okay, so here's the two binomials we want to multiply. We want to take 4x minus 3 times 3x minus 2. All right, so you're going to FOIL this. So you take the first term. So you take the first term and the first term of the other binomial. So you're going to take 4x times 3x. Next, the O stands for the outer term. So here's the outside and outer other term. So you're going to take 4x and multiply it by minus 2. Then I stands for the inner term. So you're going to take the two inner parts here. So minus 3 times 3x. And then the L stands for the last part. So you're going to take minus 3 and multiply it by minus 2. Next, all you have to do is clean this up. So 4x times 3x gets me 12x squared. 4x times minus 2 gets me minus 8x. Minus 3 times 3x gets me minus 9x. And negative becomes a positive, so 3 times 2 gets me 6. And when you do these FOILs, often what you're going to have to do is combine the middle terms because they're like terms. So minus 8x minus 9x gets me minus 17x. So this right here is what the expression is FOILed out. Okay, so let's multiply binomials that have special products next. Okay, so the first one here is what we call you're going to see the expression a plus b times a minus b. This is the product of the sum and difference of just two terms. Okay, so the first binomial is the expression of the sum, and the second is the difference. So the two terms here are a and b. So the first term in each binomial is a, and the second term in each binomial is b. So what you're going to notice here is that a and b here are the same. The only thing that's different is here we have addition, here we have subtraction. Okay. The next expression we're going to look at, this a plus b squared, is the square of a binomial. Right? The first term in the binomial is the a, and the second term is the b here. So using FOIL, it's possible to find a pattern for the product of the sum and difference of two terms and the square of a binomial. So this right here is going to be a common one we'll see. And hopefully after you see the FOIL, how it FOILs out, you'll see a pattern that develops. All right, so for this one here, the sum and difference of two terms, where we have a plus b times a minus b. So the only difference is the sign in the middle. Well, when you FOIL this out, you take first a times a gets me a squared. Outer a times minus b gets me minus ab. Inner b times a gets me plus ab. And then last b times b gets me b squared. Well, if you notice what happens here, the middle terms cancel out. You have minus ab and then plus ab. They just get canceled out. So all that you're left with is a squared minus b squared. So whenever you see something that looks like this, all right, the easiest way to solve this is just take the first term a and square it and subtract away whatever the b is squared. Like, let's take a look here. I have 2x plus 3 times 2x minus 3. Okay, the only difference is in the middle here. I have the plus and here I have the minus. So my a is 2x, so I'm going to take 2x and square it. My b is this number 3, so I'm going to take minus 3 and square it. Well, we know that 2x squared, 2x squared, 2 squared gets me 4, and x squared gets me x squared. And remember here, you're going to take the 3 and square it first to get 9, and then you're going to leave that negative there. So this right here just becomes 4x squared minus 9. So the square of a binomial here, and you're just going to follow these formulas here. When you have a plus b squared, you're going to get something slightly different than if you have a minus b squared. So a plus b squared, when you go through the FOIL, what you're going to notice is this is always going to simplify to a squared, so whatever is first squared, plus 2 times a times b, plus whatever the b term is squared. The a minus b squared, you're going to get roughly the same thing. The big difference here is when you square this out, you're going to take the first term and square it, and then minus, not up here we had plus, here we have minus 2ab plus b squared. So let's try this one here. Okay, let's take 4c plus 5d squared. So just using the formula, 4c is my a, 5d is my b. So it's a squared, so it's going to be 4c squared, plus 2 times a times b, so 2 times 4c times 5d, plus b squared, well, my b here is 5d, so now you just have to simplify this. 4c squared just becomes 16c squared. 2 times 4 is 8, times 5 is 40, c times d, plus my 5d squared here becomes 25d squared. And that's your answer there, just following the formula. If it's confusing to you, you can easily also just FOIL this out, and it's not a big deal. You could just write 4c plus 5d times 4c plus 5d and FOIL, and you'll get the same thing. All right. Notice here, this does this for you. You get the same result if you FOIL, like I said, and you can review this and practice it on your own and see that you get the same thing. All right, let's end this lecture by just doing an application problem now real quick. All right, so the radius of some circle is x minus 4 feet. So let's find the area of the circle in terms of the variable x. All right, and let's leave the answer in terms of this pi. All right, well, remember, to find the area of a circle, replace the variable r in this formula. The area is equal to pi times r squared with the given value. Okay, so we're just saying here r, I'm just going to replace my r with x minus 4. All right, so area is equal to pi r squared. Area is equal to pi times the radius. Well, my radius is x minus 4 squared. So you're going to take this and you're going to write this as the square of a binomial and FOIL it out. Or you can go back and just use this formula here. But when you square x minus 4, you end up getting x squared minus 8x plus 16. And this right here, the last step you're going to do is you're going to take your pi and you're going to distribute it through. And so the area depends on whatever the x variable is. So this area is equal to pi x squared minus 8 pi x plus 16 pi. And then in this case, feet squared. All right, class, I hope this helped.